All right, folks, buckle up because we are diving headfirst into some seriously wild claims coming straight out of Egypt.
Claims so wild they make the Sphinx look like a house cat.
We're talking about potential hidden
A
structures.
massive structure.
Yeah, massive structures buried deep, like way deep beneath those iconic pyramids of Giza.
And the wildest part? It's all thanks to some super high-tech satellite imagery, like something out of a sci-fi movie.
So picture this, you're gazing at the Giza Plateau, soaking in those majestic pyramids, right?
Hmm.
But beneath the surface, lurking far below, there could be a network of colossal structures that would rewrite history as we know it.
It's a pretty mind-blowing concept, isn't it?
Totally. And it has split the scientific community right down the middle. You've got mainstream archaeologists basically saying, hold your horses, this is nuts.
Right. And on the other side, you have these independent researchers, often the kind of folks you hear on Joe Rogan or certain corners of YouTube,
Yeah.
and they're absolutely buzzing about this, like they've struck gold.
And that's where you, our lovely listeners, come in because, let's face it, trying to sift through all the conflicting info out there can be a real headache.
Exactly. That's why we're here for this deep dive, to cut through the noise and give you the lowdown on what this discovery or alleged discovery is all about and why it's causing such a stir.
We'll break it down in plain English. No need for a PhD in archaeology here, folks.
We want you to walk away feeling like you've got a solid grasp on the facts and the arguments from both sides so you can form your own informed opinion.
Now, before we jump into the nitty-gritty, let's quickly introduce the key players in this whole saga, the folks who are making these extraordinary claims. It all started with a team of Italian researchers led by a former professor of organic chemistry named Card Malanga.
And the main man leading the charge on this project is Professor Filippo Biondo, an engineer with serious expertise in something called synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, for short, in Doppler technologies.
Yeah, these are basically super sophisticated ways of using satellite spans to peek beneath the Earth's surface.
Professor Biondo has a track record of using geophysics to study archaeological sites, so he's no stranger to this kind of work.
But here's the kicker. He's claiming to have developed a brand new technique, a novel way of combining SAR and Doppler data that can supposedly see deeper and with more detail than ever before.
This is what makes it all so tantalizing, the possibility of a technological breakthrough that could unlock secrets hidden for centuries.
So what exactly are they claiming to have found? Well, get this. They believe their scans have revealed 8 massive cylindrical structures, almost like enormous silos or tubes plunging an incredible 630 meters down. That's almost a quarter-mile deep, folks, beneath the Khafre pyramid.
The middle pyramid, for those who haven't brushed up on their Egyptian pyramids lately.
The middle one and these 8 cylinders apparently converge on 2 gigantic box-shaped structures, each one measuring a whopping 80 meters by 80 meters. Imagine a football field buried hundreds of meters underground.
It's a scale that's almost impossible to comprehend, and that's what makes it so captivating, but also so hard to believe.
And it doesn't stop there. Oh, no, they're suggesting this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Literally.
They're hinting at a potentially vast subterranean network stretching as far as 2 kilometers below the surface, a hidden world beneath the Giza Plateau.
And as you can imagine, claims of this magnitude haven't exactly been met with universal applause.
Let's just say the reactions have been pretty polarized.
Yeah, you've got the more alternative research communities, folks who are already inclined to believe in ancient mysteries and hidden technologies. They're eating this up.
Right. For them, it's like confirmation of everything they've always suspected.
While mainstream academics, well, let's just say many of them are approaching this with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Which is understandable, right? We're talking about a potentially radical rewriting of history here.
Exactly. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, as they say.
So let's address the elephant in the room. If these researchers are so convinced there's something down there, why not just grab a shovel and start digging?
Ah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But it's not quite that simple.
Yeah, I figured there had to be a reason.
The Giza Plateau is one of the most important archaeological sites on the planet, and the Egyptian government is incredibly careful about what they allow to happen there.
They're not just going to let anyone start digging willy-nilly.
Exactly. Any large-scale excavation poses a risk to the existing structures, and they would need extremely compelling evidence before authorizing anything that invasive.
So that's where these non-invasive techniques, like the satellite scanning Professor Biondo is using, come into play.
Right. It's a way to potentially glimpse what's beneath the surface without disturbing the site itself.
And hopefully, if these scans provide strong enough evidence, it could eventually lead to more targeted and carefully controlled excavations down the line.
Let's delve a bit deeper into the technology itself. You mentioned SAR and Doppler earlier.
Yeah, so just to clarify, SAR, or synthetic aperture radar, is a way of creating super detailed images of the Earth's surface by bouncing radar waves off it from a satellite.
It's like taking an X-ray of the ground.
Exactly, and Doppler technology is more about measuring changes in frequency, which can be used to detect movement.
Think of the way the pitch of a siren changes as it approaches and then passes you. That's the Doppler effect in action.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
Professor Biondo's big claim is that he's found a way to combine these two technologies, SAR and Doppler, in a way that allows him to see deeper underground than anyone has before and to map out these supposedly massive structures with incredible precision.
But that's where the skepticism from the mainstream archaeological world really kicks in.
Yeah, a lot of them are looking at this with a very critical eye.
One archaeologist we spoke to, Dr. Flint Dibble, didn't mince words. He called the whole thing total bullshit.
Ouch, that's a pretty harsh assessment.
Yeah, but he lays out some pretty specific concerns that a lot of experts share. For starters, he points out that this alleged groundbreaking methodology hasn't been published in any detail.
There's no peer-reviewed paper for other scientists to scrutinize.
It's like they're saying, trust us, we found something amazing, but without showing their work.
And that's a big no-no in the scientific community.
Dr. Dibble also raises a crucial point about the geology of the area. Numerous studies have shown that the water table beneath the Giza Plateau is relatively high, just a few dozen meters below the surface.
Which means if there are structures at 630 meters deep, as the researchers claim, they'd be completely submerged in water.
Right, it just doesn't add up geologically.
And that's a pretty big red flag.
Dr. Dibble also accuses the researchers of engaging in what he calls pseudoscience by going straight to the public with these sensational claims before getting any validation from the scientific community.
The peer review process is a cornerstone of science. It's how we ensure that research is rigorous and reliable.
So bypassing that process raises a lot of eyebrows.
It's like announcing you've discovered a cure for cancer without going through any clinical trials.
People are going to be understandably skeptical.
And finally, Dr. Dibble takes issue with the researchers' claims of being unfairly canceled. He points out that they haven't even tried to publish their work in any reputable scientific journals. So it's not really censorship if you're not even attempting to play by the rules.
Now, to be fair, it's not a complete shutout from everyone outside the mainstream. We did find some alternative voices who are at least open to the possibility of something being down there.
Yeah, Jimmy Corsetti, for example, he's got a popular podcast called Bright Insight. And he's been on Joe Rogan a bunch of times. He's often deep into alternative theories about ancient civilizations and stuff.
But even he agrees with the concerns about the water table.
He points out that the study seems to have completely ignored this crucial geological factor.
Which is interesting, right? Even someone who's usually pretty open to unconventional ideas is raising a red flag here.
It shows that even within the alternative research community, there's a recognition that you can't just throw out basic science.
Then we have Milo Rossi, an archaeology educator who runs the Mini Minuteman YouTube channel. He describes the satellite scan as potentially noisy, meaning there could be a lot of interference or misleading data.
He suggests that interpreting those results could be pretty subjective, like a Rorschach test where you see what you want to see.
He also points out that most of what we know about this alleged discovery comes from press conferences and interviews, not from peer-reviewed publications.
So we're essentially taking their word for it at this point.
But to Rossi's credit, he does acknowledge that new technologies need to be tested and refined.
He sees this as a potential opportunity to push the boundaries of what SAR technology can do in archaeology, even if these specific claims turn out to be unfounded.
So there's a silver lining even if this whole thing fizzles out.
Now, another interesting perspective comes from Dan Richards of DDG Dunning the Past. He's not necessarily buying into the claims, but he thinks the level of skepticism might be a bit over the top.
He points out that the researchers have mentioned using novel software likely involving AI to analyze their scans.
This suggests they might be using cutting-edge techniques that some traditional archaeologists might not be familiar with.
Richards uses a cool analogy. He compares the satellite data to sheet music.
Someone who can't read music just sees a bunch of lines and dots.
But a trained musician sees a symphony.
His point is that interpreting this kind of complex data might require specialized expertise.
And maybe some archaeologists are too quick to dismiss something they don't fully understand.
It's a fair point, but it also highlights the importance of clear communication and transparency.
Yeah, if these researchers are using revolutionary methods, They need to explain them clearly to the scientific community so they can be properly evaluated.
Now let's address a common argument you hear from folks who are more inclined to believe in ancient mysteries and hidden technologies.
They often say that mainstream academics are just stuck in their ways, unwilling to accept the possibility of advanced civilizations in the distant past, or that our current understanding of history is incomplete.
It's the classic "they're hiding the truth from us" narrative.
Right, but is there any merit to that?
Well, it's true that scientific paradigms can be resistant to change, but the history of science is also full of examples of radical new ideas that were initially dismissed and later proven correct.
So it's a balancing act between healthy skepticism and open-mindedness.
Exactly, and the key factor is always the evidence.
Professor Dibble, who we mentioned earlier, is very clear about this. He says archaeology is all about making new discoveries, but those discoveries need to be backed up by solid, verifiable data.
He argues that the researchers in this case have jumped the gun by going public with these huge claims before providing the necessary proof.
And using accusations of being canceled to drum up attention.
It's a tactic that can backfire because it undermines their credibility.
The bottom line is that the lack of peer review is a major sticking point for most experts.
It's the gold standard of science, and until this research has gone through that rigorous process, it's going to be met with a lot of skepticism.
For anyone who wants to delve deeper into this, Jay Anderson mentioned that there's a 4-hour Italian presentation by the research team available on YouTube with subtitles. You can find it by searching for Expedition Nicole C. Colavito.
It might provide some more detailed insights into their methods and findings, but it's important to keep in mind that it hasn't been peer-reviewed.
So take it with a grain of salt, folks.
G. Anderson himself seems to be leaning towards giving the researchers the benefit of the doubt, partly because of Professor Biondo's established background in geophysics.
He suggests that maybe some of the skepticism is based on underestimating the capabilities of this new technology.
But even cutting-edge technology needs to be validated, and its findings need to be reproducible.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Anderson states that based on the images he's seen, there is provocative evidence of substantial underground structures beneath the pyramids.
So he's not saying he's convinced, but he thinks there's enough there to warrant further investigation.
And he emphasizes the need to approach this with an open mind without being dismissive.
Which is a good reminder for all of us. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement or the skepticism, but ultimately we need to follow the evidence wherever it leads.
We also touched on the idea that if these structures do exist, they might be part of a larger global pattern of ancient megalithic sites that exhibit surprisingly advanced engineering.
Which raises even more fascinating questions about the capabilities of ancient civilizations and the possibility of lost technologies.
It's like something out of Indiana Jones.
But again, it's important to emphasize that these connections are still speculative.
Until we have more concrete evidence about the structures themselves.
So where does that leave us?
Well, we've got this incredibly intriguing claim of a vast hidden underground complex beneath one of the most iconic landmarks on Earth.
It's a story that captures our imaginations and makes us wonder about the secrets of the past.
But it's also a story that's currently facing a lot of pushback from mainstream science.
Primarily because of the lack of peer review and concerns about the interpretation of the data.
So it's a bit of a stalemate for now.
We need more evidence, more research, and ideally some carefully planned and controlled archaeological work to determine what, if anything, lies beneath the Giza Plateau.
And that brings us to a final thought for you, our listeners. This whole saga really highlights the tension between our desire to believe in amazing discoveries and the need for rigorous scientific validation.
It's a reminder that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
And that the pursuit of knowledge is a journey, not a destination.
So keep an open mind, stay curious, and always question everything.
We'll keep you updated on any new developments in this fascinating story. Until then, keep exploring, folks.
And never stop digging for the truth.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.